on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod up, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning. Welcome to a Thursday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to carry. Got a good show. We got our normal Brent Beaird, our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter, here in just a minute. We got Darren Heitner, who talking name, image, and likeness that we've been trying to get him on. We had to tape him, so won't have any questions available for him, but I think you will enjoy the interview. Some news and notes of what's going on. If you missed it, a couple of Gators won gold medals in softball for the USA. That would be Charlotte Eccles, Michelle Moultrie, who is still playing, and Amanda Lorenz, and they were coached by Coach Tim Walt. So congratulations to those ladies and Coach Walton on a gold medal win. Some sad news, obviously. I don't know if people saw it, but 22-year-old football player from Oregon was at some kind of park, slipped on a rock, and died. So some sad news there, and I'm sure a lot of people, our thoughts and prayers still go out to Patrick Young. What a crazy deal that it was, and he's very optimistic, and you can follow him on Twitter and praying for that young man. Hopefully things will work out. But let's go ahead, and also the British Open is underway, and if you've been asleep, which you probably have been, Cameron Young, the rookie on tour, who's probably going to be the rookie of the year, is 7 under par through 14 holes. Could be 8 or 9 under, quite honestly. Missed a couple of short birdie putts. But British Open is underway. There's no wind today, and they're just tearing up St. Andrews. So let's go to the Titan MR hotline. We're joined by our college football analyst, Brent Beaird. Good morning, Brent. How are you?
Shane, doing well. Good to be on with you. Certainly, as you said, prayers for the family of Spencer Webb, the tight end from Oregon, who died tragically, and that Oregon team. In general, the off seasons are tough. That's one of the reasons coaches are so relieved when everybody gets to camp in late July and early August. But we are also on the verge of SEC Media Days. We also have Phil Steele in our hands, so we'll certainly go over that too. But things are beginning to really rev up. Big 12 is having their Media Days this week, SEC and ACC next week, and then the week after that we will have the Big 10. So it's going from pretty quiet to very active very quickly.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. Monday cranks up SEC Media Days, and boy, we're right around the corner from putting on the helmets and shorts and starting day one. Before we get cranked up here, Brent, we got a couple Facebook Lives from our loyal listeners. Andy out of Chicago says, Shane, did you see where Amari Cooper is helping the Gators recruit Andy Jean, wide receiver at Miami Northwestern? Cooper was promoting the Gators speed coach, Tiger Jones. I did hear about that. I was curious, was Billy Napier the wide receiver coach maybe when Amari Cooper was there?
Very well could have been. Cooper, the Alabama star, is from that, obviously, South Florida area. So that kind of explains some of the connections during that point.
And then John says here on Facebook Live, he says, did you hear Mike Farrell, who I don't know who that is, say that if Arch Manning was Arch Smith, he would be a 3-star quarterback? Does the Manning name carry that much weight? Well, yes, it does. But here's what people forget, because I see it all over Twitter, these highlights of Arch at Newman High School, which, let's be honest, it is not very good football. They ain't got good players on his team, and they ain't got great players that he plays against. But let's not forget, Peyton and Eli played there as well against the same type of competition. So we just have to wait and see. Wouldn't you agree with that, Brent?
Yeah, I am. Matter of fact, I actually saw it. Mike Farrell is called the godfather of recruiting. Oh. He was from Rivals.com for years, and Matter of fact, I've worked with Farrell a couple of times in the past when Rivals was first getting going. So, but what happened with this was Farrell is now on his own. He has split from Rivals, and because of that, he does a lot of his own, shall we say, podcast, and he basically said that if he was looking at the film that he's got on Arch Manning, and he didn't know who he was or what family he was from, that he would have probably rated him maybe a 4-star or even a 3-star. So, but I think what you said is indicative. Again, it's not Arch's fault that he plays competition. He does, or he has the players around him. So, but no, that is what that's about. So Farrell, in other words, is rating him lower than some of the other recruiting guys, and that's caused a lot of attention too. By the way, Billy Napier was at Alabama in 2011 and then 2013 through 17, if that helps.
All right, and I don't remember when Amari Cooper was there. The whole recruiting thing is crazy because, maybe Arch is rated way too high, and it's no different than some of these other guys that went to the Elite 11 are probably rated way too high. I mean, nobody knows, and I brought this up. I don't know if it was to you, Brent, or maybe it was Buddy Martin when he was on this week or last week. I said a good homework assignment for somebody that works for Buddy, because I ain't doing it, and I even asked our listeners, that you take those 11 quarterbacks that go to the Elite 11 competition every year for the last 10, 12 years, how many of them actually played in a college football game? I'd be curious for those statistics. I ain't doing it, but maybe somebody will one day.
Well, it would be. And by the way, real quick, Amari Cooper was in Alabama in 2012 to 2014. So they obviously knew each other during that time.
Absolutely. All right. As we said, SEC Media Days kicks off Monday. The teams have come out and said what players are attending. You will be there. We will talk to you while you're there. Anything stand out? Any of the players? I tell you what. I mean, we know Alabama's got good players, but these 3 dudes that they're taking to Atlanta, boy, are they good players.
Yeah. There's no doubt about that. I mean, obviously you've got your Heisman Trophy winner and Bryce Young. You've got Will Anderson, who people think will be the #1 draft choice next year. And Jordan Battle is easily one of Alabama's better defensive backs.
Let me stop you right there real quick.
Sure.
He's a very good player, and I think I mentioned to you last week when I was working out, and they had that. Every SEC school had their day on the SEC network.
Right.
And Jordan Battle made the play of the year for the Alabama Crimson Tide because he's the one that hit Tank Bigsby and forced him out of bounds on that play.
Sure did. Absolutely. Because if Bigsby stays in bounds, the clock basically runs out in that game. So no doubt. And Battle, unfortunately, got hurt toward the end of the year, and that hurt him too. Really, really good players here for Arkansas. Jalen Catlon, KJ Jefferson, and Bumper Poole. I tell you what, that Arkansas defense is going to be really good. Now,
Brent, Bumper Poole has been playing for the last 10 years at Arkansas, I think.
Yeah, it certainly seems like it, don't it, Shane? Yeah,
he's been there forever.
Yeah, he really has. And you probably caught this. What I don't get here is for Mississippi State. Now, I do understand they've got 3 graduate seniors, and I'm sure what's happening here is Mike Leach is rewarding those guys, and I get that. But what surprised me a little bit is that Will Rogers, a quarterback, didn't come. And my biggest surprise with this is South Carolina has a offensive lineman in Javon Gwynn. Dak Joyner, the wide receiver, maybe their biggest threat down the field, and then they've got a senior defensive lineman in Zach Pickens. Spencer Rattler is not coming. Now, Spencer Rattler did not also come to with Oklahoma at Big 12 media days when he was there with his last opportunity. Now, look, I'm not saying there's anything suspicious about this. I just was surprised about that. With the guy, you bring him in, he may be your most arrogant quarterback, Shane, since when? Forever almost for them. That one surprised me.
It does, and then it doesn't, because I'm thinking of it from a Shane Beamer coaching standpoint. You know, we're bringing in this highly touted kid. Obviously, he's played at a high level at Oklahoma. He's had some bad games as well, but he's the new kid on the block. He's probably gonna be our starter. Do we really want to let's reward some of these other guys that have been with the program for a longer time? I'm just trying as a coach what he's thinking.
Yes. And to your point, if that takes some pressure off of him, I understand that too. I just thought it would have been a good opportunity for him. And look, Shane, the reality too, what we'll never know, and I'm not saying this is the situation here. Some coaches, I don't know if trust is a word I want to use here. Maybe it is. But again, I'm not saying this is that situation. But you and I both know that some teams have loose cannons, and the last thing coaches want to do is to bring them to media days and get something going that never should have started.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you missed it, the Gators are taking Anthony Richardson, Richard Garage, and Ventrell Miller. So should be a fun day next week in Atlanta. I know it kicks off college football for sure. We got a text on Facebook Live brought to you by Melton Law. John says, what did y'all think of Mike Gundy coming out and saying Texas and OU shouldn't be included in the Big 12 meetings? He says, I think Gundy has a point. But they're still in the league, though. That's the thing. I didn't hear his comments. Are you familiar with this at all, Brent?
Yes. He was this is going on yesterday, and they brought up about Oklahoma and Texas, and Gundy said he didn't think that that they should be there. So, but look, and you're right, and you still got to remember, as far as Mike Gundy is concerned, as long as Oklahoma and Texas are in your league, they're going to bring in more money because of who they are. So, and I think he may have been a little bit joking about this, if I remember the context of it. But again, whatever you say in the media days gets a lot of attention, and that certainly did.
Are you in the market to buy or sell your home? Doreen Weeby, a realtor with Caldwell Banker, MM Parish, will provide you with the fast, friendly, and reliable service. Pick up the phone and give her a call, 352-562-1411, to help your dreams come true. Speaking with Brent Beaird on the Titan MRI hotline, we'll have Darren Heitner talking NIL, second part of today's program. All right, Brent, I've kind of given up on it. Tell me what's going on with the expansion now.
Okay, I'll try to be as brief about this as I can. Things have slowed down, and that probably is a good thing. One of the big things that came out a few days ago was, and I mentioned him a lot, but Matt Hayes, who's well connected with Saturday Down South and also with 1010XL in Jacksonville, had a big article in Saturday Down South a few days ago about the SEC, for the time being, is just staying at 16, which means they will wait, supposedly, until Oklahoma and Texas come over, and then that they will just kind of be looking around to see what's going on. So, in other words, that we think that the SEC is at a hole right now. Now, Notre Dame holds all the cards, and they're still deciding what they want to do, as they're being wooed by, I'm sure, probably everybody behind the scenes. So again, they love their independence. That's very that's very important to them. Now, with all these moves, will they eventually, because of the money, be coerced into joining a conference? That might be true. The ACC right now is going to have to be creative if they want to make any kind of moves, and particularly the teams who are there now likely are locked into this media rights situation that goes through 2036, and it would be like 50 to 100 million to get out with an exit fee. What's really going on right now is the Big 12 and the Pac-12, particularly the Pac-12, and what they're going to try to do. Now, Big 12 introduced their new commissioner this week, and he said that they're looking around to see what's best for them. Kind of gave the comments you thought he would, but right now, until the Notre Dame thing gets straightened out, the Big Ten and the SEC, I think, are staying put for the moment. But anything and everything could pretty well happen with the Pac-12 and the Big 12. They could maybe do some kind of a merger, or the Pac-12 could try to bring in some different configuration of schools. Because I can tell you, if Oregon and Washington lead the Pac-12, that's going to leave the Pac-12 in a real lurch. And I don't know what they would really do at a point like that. I think the Big 12 thinks they're going to be okay, even though they're losing Texas and Oklahoma with the schools that are coming in next year, including UCF. So, without belaboring the point too much, that's kind of where we are, Shane. We're at a kind of a quiet moment right now. But look, again, my mantra has always been expansion is never dead. It's only dormant. So we may not have anything going on now for a year or even a couple of years, or this stuff could break loose again at just about any day.
Yep. And then in the transfer portal, they're trying to set restrictions of timing, how many days, kind of a free agency type period, right?
Yeah, this is one thing that we need to watch very carefully. They actually have legislation now. I mean, this really may actually happen. That they've got the windows, shall we say, are going to be tightened up. Instead of just leaving players with the ability to transfer for months at a time, they're going to be limited to what they call a couple of windows that would be happening. That, in other words, after the national championship game, there's going to be a window then, and there will be another window later on, and this is going to be voted on in August. So this may actually come to fruition sooner than later. Now we still got NIL stuff, which looking forward to hearing your guest on in a little bit, and we've also got college football expansion that still some of that's going on behind the scenes. We're not quite sure what's all going on with that, but the transfer portal is actually going to get some action in the next few weeks. And Shane, frankly, I think that's a pretty good thing to put some limits to that. That's going to help the coaches.
No doubt. Brent, I want to get to we're going to get to one of your polls /list. I got one for you that I saw on Twitter from Pro Football Focus did. Anthony Tresh, who's one of their top guys there. He had the top 10 quarterbacks in college football. I didn't know if you saw this or not. I'll read it real quick for our listeners if they missed it. Obviously, Bryce Young 1, Caleb Williams 2, Spencer Rattler 3, C.J. Stroud 4, Sam Hartman from Wake at 5, Grayson McCall from Coastal at 6, Brennan Armstrong from Virginia at 7, Dylan Gabriel, who's now at OU at 8, Keaton Slovis at 9, and they have this tells you how silly this is. They have him as a USC quarterback, which he was, but he's Pitt quarterback now.
Yeah.
And then Tyler Van Dyke at Miami. Out of this list, to me, there's two guys that I would move up. First of all, Spencer Rattler would be way down at like number 10 for me.
Yeah,
CJ Stroud would be the number 2 guy. But Tyler Van Dyke would be higher, and Brennan Armstrong from Virginia. People don't really know much about him, but that dude is a Tim Tebow type player.
Yeah.
But he's faster than Tim, and he throws better than Tim. Keep your eye on Brennan Armstrong at Virginia. But did you see that list at all?
I did. I was fascinated by where they came up with some of that. But no, I'm with you entirely. Tyler Van Dyke at Miami is the real deal. He may be the best quarterback in the league, according to some people. But I think what you said is right about Armstrong. People are really overlooking him, and they need to pay attention to him. Agree totally about Rattler. But this is a year for him to prove that he belongs in the elite. We'll see if he does.
What people forget about Spencer Rattler, he was like the number 1 quarterback in America when he came out of high school. So Andy asked, where's Will Levis on that list? Thought he's a top draft pick. They say he's going to be a top draft pick, but he wasn't on that list according to Pro Football Focus. All right, you have a list here, your SEC Power Poll, talking about the most indispensable player for each team, excluding the quarterbacks.
That's a fascinating list. Matt Hayes did this. Now, Nolan Smith, outside linebacker, Georgia, is their guy. Tyler Steen, left tackle at Alabama. This is a kid who actually was at Vanderbilt. They brought him over to protect Bryce Young, and I think that's very true. Devon Achane at A&M, he and Anaya Smith are two of the better offensive players and deep threats for anyone during that time. Jaden Hazelwood, the wide receiver at Arkansas, he is a transfer from Oklahoma. So that's going to be fascinating. I was also intrigued that he's got Michael Trigg at Ole Miss, the USC transfer. Now, South Carolina has Zach Pickens. We mentioned him earlier, the defensive tackle. That's going to be huge for them. Brenton Cox is mentioned with Florida. That he's shown some flashes. Could this be the real year for him? Tank Bigsby is a no-brainer, best player, maybe the best back in the league. Also, I was amused that Matt's got, did you see this, Shane? Harrison Mevis, who's a kicker at Missouri, who's obviously very good, but his point is, and I agree with him, in a lot of these, as we like to say, 50-50 games, if you're going to win some of those games, and Florida remembers the Missouri game last year, if you've got a really good kicker, that gives you confidence to be able to move the ball within range and kick a winning field goal. So he can make a difference for them this year.
That is no doubt about it. We got Loreno says on Facebook Live, so no Anthony Richardson, but yet he's scheduled to be the 6th pick in the draft. That's by some publication. Look, I probably wouldn't put Anthony on my top 10 quarterbacks in America. I wouldn't have a few of those either. Doesn't mean he can't be a top 10 quarterback in America.
Right.
He just hasn't. That's what, like I said, if you're evaluating by what has happened on the field, he hasn't played enough to put him in the top 10.
Absolutely.
It has nothing to do with being a Gator and him being our quarterback. We're hoping he has a phenomenal year. Matt Hayes had Florida's Brenton Cox there. I hope Brenton Cox plays at the level he's supposed to play this year.
Yes.
He's going to have to. He's had flashes here and there, but to be a 5-star with all the hype, he's got to play a lot better, in my opinion.
Agree.
Brent, so you finally got your Phil Steele magazine, which Phil Steele always – I want to say he has like a running record of he'll pick a couple of surprise teams that end up having tremendous years. Can you tell us, or have you even got to that part of the magazine yet, who his surprise teams might be this year?
Well, I can tell you some of them that now he's got Utah at 6. Now Utah is in most everybody's top 10. People again need to realize that. No surprise. Well, there's a surprise here. Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson. He's got Michigan at 5. That's a little high for me, but I thought that was interesting. A&M at 9. Now, he's got Pitt at 11. You mentioned Slovis a few minutes ago. Tennessee goes to Pitt in a really important game for them in September. He thinks a lot of Miami has got them at 12, NC State at 13. So he thinks a good bit of the ACC at this point. Shane, do you see where UCF is at 17? I thought that was also interesting. Texas is a little higher for him than some others at 18. He really likes UAB at 21. So with that, going through the whole list, he's got Tennessee at 27, Ole Miss at 30, Florida at 32, Kentucky at 35, Arkansas at 36, Auburn is at 50, and Florida State's at 60. So, and then Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, Kentucky, South Carolina, Missouri, and Vandy, Bama, A&M, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Auburn, Mississippi State, and LSU. So that's a Phil Steele in a summary there.
Yeah, I mean he does a tremendous job. So basically, we've seen all the magazines publications come out. Most people think the Gators are going to be in that 6-6, 7-5 range, right?
Yeah. From Lindy's, Athlon, and Phil Steele, that's basically what they're saying.
Yeah. I got a text here from Daryl on the Titan Mar text line. It says, Shane, could you ask Brent, what game is the swing game for the Florida Gators this year? I think it's Kentucky, because you don't want to get off to an 0-2 start if you were to lose to Utah.
Yeah. Look, I'm 100%, as they say. Now Utah is important, but Kentucky is a conference game. So if you can start 1-1 in that group, the one you need to win is Kentucky. I agree with that totally. Utah will be fun, and it'll be an exciting non-conference game, but we all know that's going to be important. And number 2 out of that might be Tennessee, because Tennessee's later on in September. I'm not saying anything about that Georgia's unimportant and some of the other games aren't important. But Shane, think about this a minute. I know you have the expectations for Florida and the way we look at them. If they beat Kentucky and Tennessee in September, that will be, I think, huge for that program.
Well, no question about it. All right, Brent, let's jump into the SEC. Let's start with Alabama. And you got here probably the biggest question mark. And I think people forget about this. Alabama, with how good they were last year, how explosive they were on offense, they gave up a ton of sacks and tackles for loss.
They gave up 41 sacks, 104 tackles for loss. It's really amazing, isn't it, Shane? And you played the position as well as anybody. That can you believe, to get sacked that many times, that Bryce Young still won the Heisman Trophy?
Yeah, and I would be interested. This is something that somebody could ask, and maybe you want to ask Nick Saban this question. A lot of times those sack numbers, when you look at 41 sacks, you say, man, the offensive line's got to get better. Now, Bryce Young is a phenomenal quarterback, and he likes to throw the ball vertical down the field. So sometimes he holds it. I'm curious how many of those sacks were credited to the quarterback for not getting rid of the football.
Well, that's a great point, and Bryce certainly had that tendency to be able to do that. And Shane, wouldn't that be a growth edge for him this year?
Oh, yeah.
That he would just need to be smarter with the football at times like that?
No question. And he will be better this year. The Auburn Tigers, I think it's going to be interesting, the questions Brian Harsin gets this week. I guess the number one question is, who's going to be his quarterback? Yeah,
and that's really up for grabs right now as we look at them. But, the thing that, to me, that's going to be very important is how good are they going to be on the line of scrimmage? offensively and defensively. Like the Popo kid, the linebacker, is really good, but he's been hurt a lot, so they need to get him going too. Now, there'll be a lot of questions about Harson's job security, and I'm sure he'll probably handle that okay. Frankly, he's on the last day, so that'll be interesting. But there are plenty of questions, a lot of pressure on Auburn.
Yes, there is. Arkansas, a lot of people say they have the hardest schedule in America. They're always going to be pretty good on defense. How good can they be this year, you think?
Oh, listen, I think you've got. We mentioned the Catalan kid a few minutes ago. We mentioned Bumper Pool a few minutes ago. I mean, those guys are really good too. Now, what you've also got is, I think, an instant starter is the Alabama transfer, Drew Sanders. So, I mean, that's three really good players off the bat, and they're very good in their secondary. Shane, could we say Barry Odom is one of the undervalued coordinators in the league who's done a really nice job?
Oh, there's no question. That's how he made his name as a defense coordinator. Got him the job, the head job at Missouri. He obviously got fired, but tremendous defensive coordinator, no question about it. The Gators, obviously, Billy will have all kinds of recruiting questions. What kind of offense is he going to run? What can the Gators do to get back in the hunt? What is one question that you would ask Billy Napier?
I would go with one of the recruiting questions simply because I think he will do this. And I did this, the numbers yesterday for television, is he said that he wanted to stay within 350 miles of Gainesville. Now, I may be off a little bit, but I think I'm pretty close here. They have 12 verbals. Nine of them are 4 stars. They got 4 kids from the Jacksonville area, and they're number 21 in recruiting right now. Now, they were way down the list. And again, the recruiting rankings right now are frankly immaterial. But what I want to hear him say, and I think he will, is, look, we've got a plan. We're working on the collectives, but we've got a good class so far, and we feel that it's going to be better. We're meeting needs. I think the Gator fans need to hear that. I hear way too much of, we're just getting beat in recruiting. When I go to the gym or I go to church, I go to places like that, and I think you and I are on the same page with this. I think he's doing a really good job myself. Now, look, do they have everything together like they need to? Probably not, but there aren't many people who do. And I think for what he said he wanted to do and what they're actually accomplishing, particularly as of late, with these 4 stars that they're bringing in, I still contend and argue with people. He's doing a much better job than people give him credit for.
I agree 110%. Brent, time is going by way too fast. I got to get to Darren Heitner. You got any nuggets before we get you out of here?
Well, there are always plenty to be with that. Let me give you a real quick LSU stat. I give Saturday Down South credit for this. LSU is one of 2 SEC programs that will be on its 4th defensive coordinator in as many years. Mm-hmm. Dave Aranda, Bo Pelini, Durante Jones, Matt House, and LSU hasn't had get this, Shane, LSU has had a top 25 defense since 2017 and had 8 top 25 defenses from 09 to 17. We talk a lot about that LSU offense, but their lack of defense, Shane, I think that has a lot to do with where they've been over the last few years, does it not?
Yeah, and it's going to be LSU's a team that I'm anxious to watch with Brian Kelly, his staff, how he handles the Southeastern Conference. Brent, great stuff as always. Safe travels up to Atlanta, and we'll talk to you next week.
Can't wait, bud. Take care. Thanks so much.
That's our college football analyst, Brent Beaird, joining us on the Titan MRI hotline. We're going to take a time out, come back. We'll be joined by Darren Heitner, talking name, image, and likeness. You're watching and listening to Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogra State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wiebe Realtor Caldwell Banker M.M. Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Avra and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit podupwithshane.com and click the Advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to carry. Celebration points where the Gators go to celebrate with premium brands like Escape Apology, Sushi Hana, Regal Cinemas, Kilwins, Lady Macaron, Prime and Pro, and the HBC's restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, where every Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 2:30, you can get the hottest brunch in town. We'll see you at Celebration Point where the Gators go to celebrate. Going to go to the Titan MR hotline now. We're going to be joined by Darren Heitner, who teaches a class at UF and is very involved in NIL, and that's why we wanted to get you on. Darren, good morning. I appreciate your time, buddy.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, let's start first. We've got a bunch of text and stuff here that people have sent in that want answered. Let's just start just a brief synopsis. Can you explain to our viewers and our listeners how NIL is supposed to work? You know, I told them I'm all for NIL, but I'm against how NIL is now. You know, it's supposed to be about name, image, and likeness, getting paid for jersey sales, autograph signings, things of that nature, not buying football players. That drives me insane. Am I crazy to think that way?
No, you're right. If you go back to the tail end of 2019, when states were originally passing bills and having them signed into law, starting with California and then our state of Florida, you see a situation where states were very concerned that the NCAA had prohibited college athletes from monetizing their fame, from benefiting from their name, image, and likeness, similar to professional athletes, really similar to every other notable individual in the United States, including others on campuses around the country who just happen not to be athletes. If you consider artists, musicians, influencers can benefit off of their fame and make money, that was the premise for these states passing those bills, signing those bills into law. And if you look at the language within those laws themselves, you'll see there's commonly provisions that stipulate to prohibit improper inducements to cause an athlete to attend a university. That typically these statutes say the athlete must first be enrolled at a university before engaging in this type of activity. Now, what we've seen since July 1, 2021, when the NCAA changed its rule allowing for NIL with some caveats, is that now states and specifically high school athletic associations across the country are reconsidering their bylaws. So as we're talking here today, in 12 states, high school athletes can also benefit off of their NIL. Where it gets confusing and concerning, especially as you mentioned in your opening, is when those high school athletes are now being offered deals, but contingent or premised on them enrolling at specific universities, which again is largely against the laws that specific states have passed, but also absolutely in violation of the NCAA bylaws. And now the biggest question is, will the NCAA actually enforce those bylaws?
Speaking of the bylaws, we got a text here on the Titan MR text line. It's from Gator King. He says, are there any means of punishment for the agents or teams from the state or NCAA that are A, blatantly pay for play, Miami, Texas A&M, USC, or B, tampering with other universities' kids to entice them to hit the transfer portal?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So athlete agents have traditionally been licensed on a state-by-state basis. So there's 40 states, 40 plus states that have athlete agent laws in place. If an individual is acting as an agent trying to procure deals or negotiate deals for college athletes without being licensed, that's a separate issue that can be enforced and has been by various states in the past. But if an athlete agent is doing anything that is against the NCAA bylaws or against a state law and puts the athlete's eligibility or otherwise in jeopardy, then certainly there can be ramifications for that agent. And separately, if there's any sort of tampering, as you mentioned, if there's, let's say, enrollment by an athlete at a university and efforts made to cause that athlete to transfer, there is the potential for a cause of action. I'm thinking off of the top of my head, tortious interference with business relations or with contractual agreements. Now, the athletes do enter into agreements with their schools. So if someone is trying to interfere with that, there may be a cause of action there. But a big question is, who is the aggrieved party? Who is actually being hurt? Does the fan have standing to bring a case like that in a court of law? And that'll be interesting if and when a case like that is brought. We're certainly seeing activity by boosters, by collectives to try to pry away athletes from schools that they're already enrolled at with the new transfer portal. And it's really interesting to follow because we're really seeing a confluence of NIL becoming an opportunity, but at the same time, the transfer portal opening for the first time. And I think a lot of people would say there's a lot of nefarious activity as a result of that.
All right, we got a question regarding, the agents out there. People want to know, are they taking advantage of these college athletes? And aren't they some of them making false claims on some of these deals? I still personally don't believe whatever supposedly Miami offered the Jaden Rashada guy. I just don't know how you pay a kid coming out of high school that kind of money. But didn't the Jordan Addison kid who transferred from Pittsburgh to USC, he's not real happy with supposedly what he was supposed to be getting to go to USC?
From what I've told, and I work closely with Jordan Addison's agent, that story apparently is completely untrue. That he is happy at USC, that the biggest reason for his transfer had nothing to do with NIL. In fact, it was many different things, including Kenny Pickett leaving, his quarterback for the NFL, his coach leaving, his wide receiver coach leaving as well. And so the program that he committed to and enrolled in was very different after last year going into this year, and he thought that it'd be a better situation at USC. But there may be instances where an athlete does decide to transfer, perhaps even based on promises that were made, and those promises not being fulfilled. And in such situations, you may then find the athlete back in the transfer portal at a later date and time. The reality of the situation is these athletes are not salaried employees. So while they do enter into agreements with the schools, they're not W-2. They're not bound to necessarily stay with that school. It's not a breach of contract if they leave, especially with the transfer portal now open. Now, back to your first question about the amounts of money that are purportedly being offered. You mentioned Jaden Rashada at University of Miami, which came to light via an On3 article where his lawyer rushed to reporters to talk about the amount of money, I guess, that he actually left on the table, allegedly, and then, for whatever reason, decided to take a hit at the Gator Collective and call it dysfunctional. But, it's come out that I think it's upwards of $8 million to him, and something similar to a quarterback also from California, who I believe is 5 stars, who's now committed to University of Tennessee. I'm forgetting his last name. His first name is Nico. And same lawyer that he has there, who apparently was shopping him around and negotiating a deal like this prior to commitment. I don't know what's true and what isn't. No one apparently has seen the contracts or knows whether the contracts exist. I'm very interested in following, because what happens if the athlete does not perform to the level that is expected? What happens if the athlete decides to transfer at some point? Do these boosters or collectives still have to pay out? These are really interesting matters that will unfold in the future. I personally don't think the $8 to $10 million guaranteed to a high school athlete who has yet to even prove himself in college is something that's sustainable.
Yeah, it's crazy. I agree 100%. At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. A few more minutes here with Darren Heitner on the Titan MR hotline. You can follow Darren on Twitter at Darren Heitner. Georgia, Kentucky wants to know, can you explain the difference to us fans, the difference between the Gator Collective and the Gator Guard?
Sure. The Gator Collective was an idea created by Eddie Rojas back really around July 1, 2021. This concept of creating a subscription-based platform where really the average fan would be able to subscribe on a monthly or annual basis in a tiered system and gain unique access to the athletes and unique opportunities to engage in contests and giveaways and perhaps NFT offerings, in-person appearances, et cetera. So definitely a subscription-based model that was interested and continues to be interested in scaling based on getting as many members as possible. Whereas the Gator Guard, which is a newer project, is the creation of Hugh Hathcock, a major supporter of the Gators athletic department historically, who wanted to create, I guess, a smaller club of high net worth individuals who would pony up a significant amount of money on an annual basis and limit this club, again, to those high net worth individuals, but do so also in an effort to spend the money raised for NIL purposes. I believe a lot of that money ultimately being filtered through the Gator Collective, which has done a tremendous job of making sure that there is quid pro quo, that the athletes are doing something in exchange for the money that they're receiving. So the Gator Guard and the Gator Collective are separate entities, but I do believe they work pretty closely with each other.
Speaking of that, if you're on Twitter, some of our crazy fan base doesn't think that the Gators are spending enough money. What do you have to say to that?
Well, what do they know?
That's true.
Respect. Well, right. It's interesting because I've long been known as and fashioned myself as someone who bleeds orange and blue. I went to University of Florida for undergrad for law school. I teach at the law school there, and I've worked with many former Gators athletes when they've turned pro. I currently work with many athletes there, assisting them from an NIL capacity, not only on the football team. And I have even been criticized, and people make assumptions as to what my role is or isn't, and how much of an involvement I am in the Gator Collective, et cetera. It's been sort of an eye-opening experience over the past month to see how reactive this fan base can be, and sometimes extremely aggressive with those who are merely trying to assist. I've asked everyone to take a step back, take a deep breath, let the process play itself out. People are forgetting. We have a brand new staff. So they have to start from the very ground floor. And I think Billy Napier and his staff have done a tremendous job without having the years of being in Gainesville, Florida, to secure and persuade athletes that Gainesville is a great place to be and to perform. And we've seen it just in the past week. Look, we've had a 4-star quarterback flip from Penn State to University of Florida. We've had one of our top prospects at running back decide to commit. We have an excellent core that we're developing. And there's still so much time left in recruitment for 2023 and especially for 2024. Everyone just needs to take a step back and support as opposed to chastise the staff.
I agree 110%. Last thing before we let you go, Sharon on the Titan MR text line says, and you answered part of it. She asked, do you represent any of the Gator players? And also, do you represent any players from other schools?
Yes, I've worked with Anthony Richardson for roughly a year now, assisting with NIL. Same is true. I've worked with Jervon Dexter, with McMillan, with Trinity. I've helped Trinity Thomas, Leah Clapper, and other Gators with their NIL. And yes, I've worked with many athletes outside of University of Florida. I'll just point out one because we talked about, or I referenced him earlier, Kenny Pickett, who was at Pittsburgh, who was a quarterback, is now drafted into the NFL. I worked with him and many others across the country.
Darren, we appreciate your time, buddy. Hope this cleared up. A lot of people have been wanting you to come on my program. Appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you soon.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Yep, that's Darren Heitner. Join us on the Titan MR hotline. Going to take our final time out. Come back. Wrap up this Thursday edition.
Pro football legend Emmitt Smith understands your joint pain.
It does not surprise me that there are a ton of people out there that's in pain.
That's why Emmitt is such a proponent of QC Kinetics, offering real lasting joint pain relief with non-surgical, all-natural biologic treatments.
Whether it's a joint pain, ankle pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, back pain, hip pain, any kind of pain, the body eventually will break down when it's under that much stress.
That stress can cloud your judgment to the point that you'll just say yes to the scalpel or yes to another prescription of pain pills. But maybe it's time for a second opinion from QC Kinetics.
The reason why I would recommend this is because the natural biologics that QC Kinetics is providing you gives your body a chance to naturally heal itself.
Restorative, regenerative solutions are here. Get lasting relief and live your life.
Call QC Kinetics 352-400-4550. That's 352-400-4550. QC Kinetics 352-400-4550.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Ruzoga State Farm Office is a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. I want to thank Darren Heitner and our college football analyst, Brent Beaird, for joining us on the Titan MR hotline. Hope you enjoyed that. Sorry we couldn't do it live, but Darren's very, very busy and we could only tape him. So hope you folks enjoyed it. Let's get to this day in sports. Reminds our promise. Beat the summer heat and schedule your air conditioners tune up today, keeping you chilled in the Florida heat far away. Comfort Temp Heating and Air. Give us a call today, 352-376-2366. This day in sports, back in 1987, the Rookie of the Year award in Major League Baseball is renamed to honor Jackie Robinson. That's this day in sports. Brought to you by our good friends at Comfort Temp. Let's see. Let me get the leaderboard for the British Open right now. Some guys are still on the golf course. Cameron Young shoots 8 under par. Obviously, the wind is not blowing. Cam Smith, one of my favorite golfers, is 5 under par. Look at old Ernie Els, the old guy. He sits at 5 under par as well. Rory McIlroy is at 5 as well. So it should be a good tournament. Hopefully the wind and the weather will kick up, because if it doesn't, they will tear up St. Andrews. It's just way too short. But I hope you enjoyed today's program. JC will be back tomorrow. And have a great day, folks. See you then. Take care.
Trying to get the fans fired up. 2nd down and 10. Matthews rolling to his right, in trouble, can't find anyone. Now he throws it for Harrison Houston, who makes the catch. He's in the open field. Harrison to the 20. They're not going to catch him. Touchdown, Gators.